Peace, love, and light reflections. Peace, peace. Back again. Here to reflect some light, some divine wisdom, some knowledge from the consciousness. Here to break down word spells for my reflections for oneself, and what the word relationship means. Now, if we break down relationship, we break down the word. There's relation, and then there's ship. And we already know what a ship is. A ship is a form of transportation to get one being from one place to another. A relation is having a relation, intercourse with something. So relationships are entities, beings that come into one's life, either a lesson or a blessing. Everything's a blessing in disguise. All things are blessings in disguise. To transfer one's being in consciousness from one part to the next. Has one ever noticed when they're in a relationship with someone, with a reflection of self, that their consciousness changes? Thoughts, ideas, what one may be thinking, what one may be doing in action, changes from relationship to relationship. If one has tapped into their higher self, if one has tapped into me, the reflection of self, and has grasped the knowledge, and it has raised their consciousness in mind, this is a form of what a relation, the effect of what a relationship has on someone. If someone taps into their higher self and has been changed through perception in the mind, thought patterns, and then changes in their reality and actions, this is a form of a relationship. So, it's mindful. Be mindful of what relationship you get into, what one subjects themselves to. Because one can subject themselves to and be in a ship, be in a relationship that does not serve them. And if one does not know where one is going, where one is headed, one can get trapped in this relationship. One can go too far in this relationship and miss the stop, and miss where one was supposed to get dropped off through this relationship. If one stays conscious of self, one stays conscious of reality, understanding that everything is a reflection of self. So when one encounters a relationship, one will break down and alchemize this relationship and see how this relationship is going to serve one's being, where this relationship is going to bring one in their consciousness, whether it's going to affect them negatively or positively, whether it's the higher self or the lower self. Then one will have power, one will be able to alchemize, one will know what serves them and what does not serve them. Not all relationships are good. Some relationships are just lessons, reflections of self, in order for one to articulate, analyze, and then move away from. Some relationships are meant to be in order for one to get somewhere in the physical, in the physical realm, in an action. Some relationships are not just affecting one's conscious, subconscious, but also affecting one's actions and physical movements. And some of these relationships are needed for beings to learn and to grow, for lessons. If one taps into their higher self, one is chosen, one will be swayed and compelled and brought to new levels of consciousness, which will change one's perception. When this changes one's perception, one will find themselves in action. And then one will wake up one day in the tropics between Cancer and Capricorn, where one is supposed to be in the natural environment. one will find themselves eating fruit. One will find themselves in a new consciousness, in a healthy environment. One will find themselves loving themselves, because I love myself. I love myself, and I'm reflecting light to myself. We are all pieces of light. We're all fragments of sunlight through expression, astrological consciousness, through astrological expressions from the archetype, from God. There's many encounters one will face. These are all part of one's path. These are all part of one's journey in order to arrive in this life or the next, in this cycle or the next, back to the source, to one's higher consciousness. Based off what one has done in their past life will determine where one will end up in this life. And one can study astrology to know where one is headed, what one is capable of. And when one knows what one's capable of, what one's strengths and what one's weaknesses are, one will have a sense of where one is going in direction, what one needs, what one doesn't need, what serves oneself and what won't serve oneself. One will be able to, or one won't, depending on if one is vibrating at the right frequency, at a high frequency, or coming to their higher self, their Christ conscious, will be able to know where one's headed, where one's going, where one needs to be. But some beings astrologically are played out to be a part of the Cancer, to be a part of the lower self, based off their past life, in order to learn lessons. Pain will be their teacher. Not all beings have to go through pain. Not all beings astrologically have to go through pain, this pain. Some beings have the choice to rise to their higher self, to experience, to realize, live the truth, the knowledge. Because I am the knowledge. I am the truth. I am the way and I am the light. I am the truth, the way, and the light. I am everything. This is training grounds, the time where we either fall to our higher self, we either fall to our lower self, or we come rising to our higher self in consciousness. No in between, straight line, black and white. One either gets in tune with nature and one is out of tune with nature. If one is out of tune with nature, one is a virus, is a cancer, is a threat, is harmful to oneself and everything around oneself, because one does not know. If one is not in tune with the source, if one is not in tune with their authentic self, if one is not getting in tune or vibrating at a high level of understanding with the consciousness, one is a danger to themselves and others. One is just going to be a part of that of what it is. There has to be duality. There will be beings that are here to learn through pain. There will be beings who will learn through the higher self and will have in the end will have a better outcome and an easier route. Although the righteous path is walked by very, very few, and it can be getting out, going through hell, getting out of Babylon, going through the lower self. Yes, this will be painful. This will be a struggle. This will be an obstacle, as is Babylon is an obstacle for the righteous through the chosen to mold and shape and construct for one to get out of, to come back to the source, to rise to the higher self. All beings are on this path, whether they are conscious or unconscious of this. But when one comes to consciousness of what this reality is and the path that one is on, it becomes easier, it gets better and better when one is conscious. It becomes light work, because one is a light being. And reflecting light is effortless if it is in one heart. If it is in one's heart, reflecting light and doing work, the work of Mama, doing the work of God, will be effortless. The time is now to get out of Babylon. So, this is a message to all beings of what reality is. All paths lead to the source. Everyone must come back to this conceptualized. Everyone must come back to the source. Every being must come to where one is right now. I am here to guide those beings. I am here to give the light. I am here to make this easier for one's being. If one is stuck in the middle between fences, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, one will be living in purgatory. If one is in Babylon and one knows the truth, one will be living in purgatory. One will experience the greatest pain because one knows, but one does not do. There are many beings who reflect light, reflect truth, but they do not live it. But one does not live it. But one is not showing in action. One is not where one needs to be in the tropics. One is not doing the right thing. One is not loving themselves. When one does not love themselves, love is understanding. When one does not love themselves, it is easy to tell by the fruits that one bears. If one does not look healthy, if one has problems and clear indications that one is not loving themselves, one will see it through what one eats, through what one subjects himself to, being beings, people that are low vibration, the environment that one lives in, how one treats others is a reflection of self. Everything is a reflection of self. So if one does not love another, one does not love themselves. Now, if one is conscious of a higher and lower self, and one chooses to give that divine wisdom and shed that light and tell truth, one loves. This is action. Love is an action. Love is more than just, I love myself. Love is actions. Love is an action, an expression that shows an understanding of love. For me to know this divine wisdom and divine knowledge, but to not do anything with it and not reflect the light, not to help my lower self, not to help the beings that were where I was at one point in my journey, is not loving myself. To love myself is to give to my past self, the beings that are stuck in the past, beings that are stuck in my past. This is a form of love. If one was to see themselves in the past, what would one tell themselves? If one was conscious and knew things that one knows now, and went back 5, 6 years ago, what would one tell themselves? Everything is in the now. Everything is in the now. There is no past, there is no future. Everything is in the now, just rapidly changing. One can raise their consciousness and move in action in the now, end up somewhere, and then experience and come across the same beings that one has met in past life, in what would one call a past life. But this is not the past, it's the now. It's just an energy transforming from one entity to the next, manifesting itself in one's reality as an obstacle for one to come over. But when one's conscious of these obstacles, one can spot them and see them for what they are. If one gets away from a low vibrational being, a being that has hurt, caused them pain, and then one moves on, one will experience pain and one will continue to get that being until one is conscious that that being continuously comes in and out. The devil comes in and out. It's always in the details. The devil is in the details. And it will manifest itself in different forms. Always showing until one is conscious that, wow, these beings that come into one's life have been the same beings. And that the now is the only thing that exists. It's just energy transforming itself, morphing itself from entity to entity. Always transforming, never the same. So one sees this demon, sees this being that caused pain and hurt. One can point that out. Now one has two choices. When one's conscious, one can cast that demon out with love and positivity and maneuver themselves around, maneuver themselves through, and separate self from this low entity, this low vibrational being. But if one is not conscious, this demon, this being will be in the presence without one consciously knowing, and will cause hurt, cause pain, cause disharmony, cause disruption. And then one will ask, why do I keep getting hurt? Why do I keep getting these demons, these beings that want to hurt me? Because one is not conscious of what reality is. One is not conscious that this is reflection of self, showing one something of self, showing that one is not conscious enough to see and read between the lines. So one experiences pain over and over and over until one gets it, until one sees with the mind's eye, can spot this. We must come to this consciousness. We will come to this consciousness. I am at this consciousness. The chosen take this information and apply it to life, apply it to one's reality, manifest themselves out of Babylon, manifest themselves in a good environment. Not all beings have to come here. Costa Rica is a great green place. No military. Very beautiful. Fruit, full of fruit, organic. One needs to get back to the source, connecting back to the source. If one takes these small pieces of advice, applies it to life, not only conceptualizing it, realizing it, moving through action, this is a form of love. This is saying that one loves himself. If one studies astrology and then bases one's moves, decisions, calculations, and articulates and structures and forms one's reality based off one's astrological energy, what one needs, what one does not need, one's weaknesses, one's strengths, one will come to a high consciousness. One will be able to operate at a high frequency. One will be loving themselves. I love myself. Relationships are spaceships to transfer consciousness from one area to the next in the now. Be mindful of the relationships that one subjects themselves to. Not all relationships are meant to be traveled. Some relationships are reflections for one to come to consciousness of what that relationship, what that entity is, and then make a calculated, precise decision to not get in that relationship. When one becomes conscious enough, One can spot it from a mile away, and then one will say, that is not the relation for me. That's not the ship one wants to travel in. And then one will go find another relationship, another frequency to tap into that matches one's frequency. Frequency is family. Family is frequency. If one is not on your frequency, if one can't conceptualize one's life, or is not on the same frequency, then that is not your family. Be mindful. Be conscious. One's going to give some shout outs. I'm going to give some shout outs to my reflections. Latasha, peace reflection. Charlotte Staten, peace reflection. Osiris, peace reflection. Audrey, peace reflection. Nature Kid, peace reflection. Reggae Boykin, peace reflection, peace, peace. Donna, peace reflection, peace. Jessica Nash, peace reflection, peace, Jessica. Okay, Osiris asked a question. Osiris asks that one notices that one has an American accent but resides in Costa Rica. Is one at a retreat, and what does one do from day to day? One is not at a retreat. One is working for Mama. One is working for the higher self. One is working for God. One is tapped into a frequency that is family and has been sent here to do God's work, to do the work of Mama, the archetype, to raise the consciousness of humanity, to bring people, to bring the chosen, to bring humanity back to the source, back to nature. One has been blessed, and it all has been written in the stars, astrologically. Certain beings would come together in a cycle in this existence and be the light, be the chosen to reflect information and light, to raise the consciousness for people, for beings, for reflections, to rise up and to come into the new age, to come into the new cycle, because everything is on a cycle. One has been blessed by Master Teacher Nature Boy Reflection, with this divine information and divine wisdom. One has been blessed from getting out of Babylon to being in the tropics, Costa Rica, to reflect my light and to give my divine wisdom and knowledge to all the beings that are in Babylon, to all the chosen that are in Babylon, because I love myself. And one gives great thanks, appreciation, and love to Master Teacher. One reflects light. One shows how one loves themselves and how one loves through the actions. When one displays love, it is not so much what one says, but what one does. So I give thanks to my master teacher. And to answer Osiris's question, this is we are chosen light beings that are from the ether. We're Etherians, and we come here to give this divine wisdom to anyone that is on our frequency and able to tap into the higher consciousness, the Christ consciousness, for this cycle in time, to ascend into other realms, other states of the conscious, to experience oneself, because we are all reflections of each other, part of the Christ consciousness, just reflecting light. We're all forms of light. And this is what this reality is to live by the truth, the knowledge, the path, the righteous path, which is Mama, which is nature. And we're here to show people, show reflections, show myself how to live in harmony with nature, how to connect back to the source. This is what we do from day to day. Sammy SCC, peace reflection, peace. Timothy, peace reflection. Alma Lopez, peace reflection, peace. Osiris, for the question that one has just asked, one just answered. If one's still in the room, I just answered the second question that one has asked about how one shows love from the higher self. I hope one received the that transmission, that signal. If not, one can rewind and go back in the video. Ainsley Hamilton, I hope I pronounced my reflection's name right. Peace reflection. Israel, gift, peace reflection. Peace. Kundalini D, I am grateful. I love myself. Peace reflection. Peace. Timothy asks, what does one think about cutting grass? We tuning back into nature and getting connected to Mama means not just disrupting or doing anything to disturb Mama. One doesn't particularly, because it's in Babylon that beings do this, so one does not one doesn't agree with that. One doesn't agree with disrupting and disturbing harmony of nature. And if one does it at the least possible, amount. Certain things will, like we have tent community here, so as we set our tents on the ground, the grass turns brown because there's no oxygen, water, moisture that gets down there. It can't grow on top of beings that sleep on the grass all the time. So, but when one takes the tent off, the grass grows back. So it's the least amount of disharmony that one could make in that instance. So one believes being one with nature as much as one can, and that's not too affecting. So one's not totally against it, but one's not it's just irrelevant, really. When one's in harmony with nature, one will find ways and be able to be at harmony, and if one's not in harmony, then one's a Cancer and one's unconscious anyways. So really it's the information and the signals and the software that one needs to download and receive and come to the higher consciousness. Grass cutting is irrelevant to the path to the righteous and coming to the Christ conscious. We don't cut grass. We don't do that. So if the lower self does that, then that's duality. The lower self needs to do that, but we don't cut grass. So, anyways, peace reflections. Okay. So yes, I'll give one a view of Mama. Actions speak louder than words. Loving thyself is an action. Sammy, one knows by studying astrology. one has to be conscious. If one's not at a high conscious, vibrating at a high frequency, one will not understand. One will not be able to conceptualize and see the truth. The chosen know. The chosen have an innate feeling inside one's being. One will know if one's in a simulated environment and sees everything wrong with this environment that one has been subjected to. This is how one knows that they are of a higher consciousness, vibrating at a high frequency. When one questions why one has to work every day. Nothing in nature, nothing in the animal kingdom works. Everything sleeps, fucks, and eats. We are part of this harmony, but we fell into the lower self and got disconnected from that. Now we are coming into our higher self, where we are connecting and coming back into the source, coming back to Mama. So it's important that we realize this. And if one does not have this in their heart, then one is not the chosen, and one will not be able to conceptualize and download this new software, upload this new software, and be able to reflect their light. One is probably a Cancer, astrologically playing out to be an obstacle and to learn lessons through pain this lifetime, this cycle. But all paths lead to the source, so eventually one will have to come back to the source. Anyways, okay, reflections. I love myself.